Round 4 of Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton is in the books, and so far it's the 7-time world champion who leads 3-1 on the scorecards. Another superb drive from Hamilton and a brilliant strategy call enabled Mercedes to take victory from Red Bull after being passed at the start of the Spanish Grand Prix. Hamilton now walks into Monaco with a 14-point championship lead and a ton of momentum after what is his best start to a Formula One season in his career. Red Bull and Verstappen looked poised to even up the score at 2 wins apiece after turn 1, but once again they leave a race weekend in 2021 wondering what could have been. Verstappen drove a terrific race and did everything he could in his power to put himself in a position to win the Spanish Grand Prix. But unfortunately, his team fell short of giving him the strategic advantage, which could have seen him finish ahead of Mercedes and take a much closer step to a driver's championship lead. You could argue that this is the third race of the season in which Red Bull have fumbled the strategy and have been caught napping by the 7-time world champions. Are these team mistakes hampering Max Verstappen's 2021 title hopes, and is it a sign of things to come for the rest of the season? Before we dive into what went wrong for Red Bull in Spain, give this video a thumbs up if you like the content, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a post-race analysis video. Starting second in Spain has only yielded 17% of the total race victories, and with Hamilton on pole, it was an uphill battle for anyone to try and beat Mercedes on Sunday. Verstappen corrected those odds, however, on lap 1 as he pulled off a brilliant move on Hamilton going into turn 1, which gave him the all-important track position in Barcelona. It looked good in the early stages, but in hindsight we can see that Red Bull's shot at winning the Grand Prix might have been over before it even started. When Verstappen pitted on lap 24 for the medium tire, it was actually not a scheduled stop as Red Bull had not called him in. Hamilton had closed to within 0.5 of a second on the lap that Verstappen dived into the pits. Red Bull were not adequately prepared as the left rear went on late for a 4-second pit stop. Afterwards, Red Bull's Christian Horner said they expected Mercedes to react right away to their slow stop by boxing Hamilton, but the fact that they stayed out meant Mercedes had a clear performance advantage. But even if that is true, Red Bull handcuffed themselves with their tire allocation heading into the Spanish Grand Prix. For some reason, Red Bull burned an extra set of mediums during FP3 on Saturday, while Mercedes decided to save their extra set of mediums for Q1 instead. This allowed Mercedes and Hamilton to enter the Spanish Grand Prix with 1 set of new mediums and 1 barely used set of mediums. On the other hand, Verstappen only had 1 new set of softs and the hard tire which nobody wanted to even touch with the 10-foot pole during the race. This forward thinking from Mercedes was a genius maneuver that played a huge factor in their victory. It allowed Hamilton to pull off the 2-stop while putting Verstappen and Red Bull in a no-man's land position of strategy options. Whether leading or not after lap 1, the Mercedes strategy team had all their bases covered, and all they could really do was rely on one of the greatest ever to maximize the performance of the car, which to no surprise Hamilton was able to do. Usually the biggest problem with history is that nobody learns from it, so we are doomed to repeat it. On Sunday, Red Bull did exactly that as they went with the same strategy that cost them victory in Hungary back in 2019. Although different circumstances, Hungary and Spain are both notorious for its difficulty in overtaking, but that 2019 race taught us that fresher tires trump track position at the end of the day. So it was then surprising to see Red Bull acknowledge the similarities of the situation to Hungary 2019, and yet go on to do exactly the same thing. Squeezing out 42 laps on the medium tire was always going to be difficult, but why not try something different if the team seemingly already admitted defeat at that point? So what could Red Bull have done instead? Well, going on the hard tire was not an option as no driver even touched the C1 compound after free practice. So that just left the soft tire option for Max. Hamilton pitted to his used set of mediums on lap 42, which then put him 23 seconds behind Verstappen. If Max had boxed shortly after Hamilton's stop, he would have been looking at a 20 to 24 lap stint on a new set of softs, which would have roughly equaled his opening stint, which was 24 laps on a used set of softs. Even if he would have waited until lap 50 to pit, the gap to Hamilton would have been 15 seconds with 16 laps to go to try and mount an attack. Now, of course, the problem with this was the other Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas. But Bottas' pace was far slower than both Verstappen and Hamilton's, and Bottas also would have been on a worn set of mediums that he put on lap 23. For my money, with the pace advantage Hamilton had on the mediums and in the race in general, why not box for the fresh and faster compound to finish the race? I think as quickly as Hamilton dispatched Bottas, Verstappen would have done the same, and it would have been the two going at it for the final 15 laps of the race. Horner's post-race comments essentially saying that there's nothing more Red Bull could have done. It's quite disappointing to hear from a team who could have clearly taken a risk when their backs were up against the wall. Whatever performance advantage Red Bull had in Bahrain has now seemingly shifted in favor of Mercedes. The W12 now looks to be the stronger car in race trim, and with Hamilton's magic, he's able to nurse the tires far better than his Dutch rival. But blaming this loss in Spain on not being as quick as Mercedes is just not acceptable on the part of Red Bull at this point. One of the reasons why Mercedes has become so successful in the past 7 years has been their ability to win races on a Sunday in which they don't have the fastest car. Just look at Bahrain a few months ago, for example. They were out-qualified by 4/10 and were clearly still suffering from their testing troubles, and yet they still came away with a race victory. And why? Thanks in large part to great on- and off-track execution. That combination is what Red Bull have been missing so far in 2021, and if they don't correct that quickly, this could get ugly fast. Now, it's not time to call it a day just yet, not even close. Verstappen has shown blistering pace at times, and his qualifying form is a massive step forward from 2020. But against Mercedes, it's not just enough for Max to drive the wheels off the car, as he needs his team to do their part and outwit Mercedes in the strategy department, even on a day when they don't have the fastest car. This is also where Max's teammate Sergio Perez comes into play. Because Perez was feeling unwell on Saturday, it compromised his race and gave Mercedes the undercut option, which wouldn't have been there had Perez started in the top 4. He said preseason he needs 5 races in order to be 100% at home in the RB16B, so starting on from Monaco, Perez needs to be right there with Max to shift the dynamic of this championship. In terms of the car performance, Red Bull will have to work on giving Verstappen some updates that will help them with tire management in the race. There was a comment from Lewis Hamilton post-race that was very interesting, saying, quote, "I learned a lot about Max today, and perhaps more than all the other races probably put together. And I learned a lot about his car and learned a lot about how he uses it." So what did Hamilton learn about Verstappen's driving style in Spain? Could it be perhaps that Verstappen puts far more energy into his tires than Hamilton does, which leads to higher degradation? If Hamilton's adapting better to take care of his tires, that could be a big factor in deciding the 2021 championship, but only Lewis Hamilton knows exactly what he learned Sunday in Barcelona. What did you make of the Red Bull and Verstappen strategy, and what would you have done differently in that situation? Let me know your thoughts below in the comments section, and also if your 2021 championship outlook has changed after 4 races so far. Thank you all for watching and your continued support. We will see you in a couple days' time for our Spanish Grand Prix recap podcast.